welcome to the October 12th regular meeting of the North Bennington Graded School Prudential Committee. And we'll start with introductions. We'll start with Tim here. Maybe you should face the camera.
This Tim. Which Tim?
Oh yeah, right, Tim Newbold.
I'm Tim Newbold. I'm the head of the Village School of North Bennington.
Mary Rogers, treasurer.
Lori Elwell. I'm the clerk, secretary. I forgot where I was.
Ray Molyneux, the chair of the North Bennington Prudential Committee.
Matthew Patterson, vice chair.
John Bullock, board member.
Tim Schrader, board member.
Completing introductions. Public comments, we have no public. Therefore, we'll move to finance. And we're not going to examine the budget status report, the treasurer's report though, however. We'll let Mary speak to that.
The treasurer's report was emailed, and neither Lori or I got a copy in the mail of the packet, but that's probably coming. However, there's the thing that I will note on the treasurer's report is that there was about $200,000 left in the account at the end of September, which puts us in good stead to cover tonight's warrants, and then a little then some. So we should not have to borrow any more from the line of credit by the next time checks are due, barring unforeseen circumstances. We'll be able to use tax funds collected.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have this. I'm looking at the report. I was going to ask you about the amount, so you've already answered that question. So, great.
Do you have any other questions on that report, or
No.
any others?
So
Okay.
you took 5 out of the Terry Eric Fund, and that would show up in October?
That will show up in October.
At the end
yes.
of this month. So it's 56 now, and it'll be 51,000 after
Correct.
that's removed. Show after it's deducted on paper here.
And just guessing, just presuming that you use that 5,000 and then the 2 warrants tonight, there'll still be $14,000 to $17,000 left in by the end of October. So
Okay.
should some other bill have to be paid this month or
So how much money have we pulled off on that anticipation?
5,000. That's what we authorized
No,
last.
no, I mean for the total.
For the total cash anticipation, I
Oh.
took, I don't know, 150, 180.
Out of but the total
The
line
line
of
was
credit was
325, was
Sure.
it? Yeah,
Okay.
something like that, yeah.
Go in there.
I got it right here, but,
yeah.
yeah.
These are considerably smaller sums than we used the
Yeah.
last 2 or 3 years. So it's going in the right direction under your management. Thank you. Now, there's a bond payment that is being made this month?
Yes.
And that's on the QSCAD bond? Not the original one,
Not,
as it's called?
that's not the QSCAB one that comes up at the end of the year. This is the one that comes up in November each year. It's due November 1st. And it's a part of a big school supervisory union bond, and everybody gets a part of it.
So that was the middle, that's the middle school bond?
Is that what it is? That's, I was looking at what we did the
The middle
last
school
2
bond
years.
would be paid for by taxes that the MAU
Oh,
union
maybe it is.
takes in.
But we do the QSCAB
The QSCAB is our
principal
bond.
payment, yes, and we do that in the 1st of
I
July.
thought so, I thought it was.
Yes, but this bond has been done
So this is the
The
other
last-
old, the old.
the
budget
other
bond.
old bond.
this is our original bond?
Oh, it must
28,000?
be. It's been about the same payment the last 2 years.
So this would
It's
be our
about
final payment. But, you know, you have an escrow on your,
Yes, but that,
you have an
This-
escrow,
this-
of restricted lease of 3918,
right.
and this warrant is for
Oh, you know
approximately
what?
that.
That would be it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that is the final payment.
Yeah, I just have to go look up my,
Well, we should have
Thing.
I don't know if we have a piece of paper we can burn.
That's
document.
That's the final payment from
That's the
the,
final payment
from
from
the
the
96.
96 bonds,
yeah.
right?
makes sense, 20 years.
And it's a little less than you have escrow.
Than normal.
Well,
With
that's
the
something to be
interest
happy
as
about.
well.
Which bond was that?
That was when they did,
Well, that was when wholesale renovations happened to classrooms. We created the 2 fire stairs,
Right.
which allowed us later, subsequently, to take the steel fire escapes off, which were frightened a lot of children, try to go down them.
was that when you
Frightened me.
built the entryway?
The entryway was built,
Right.
yeah, the foyer,
Yep.
and the extension of the office area where Tom's office and Tim's office now
That was all new.
exist, yes. And the office, it got renovated, separated off before the office was, you walked up the stairs and there was a little foyer right there, but it was unenclosed. The office was right there. There was the desk that Faye uses was right out there in the open. The principal's office was behind.
Just before my time. Didn't have any kids.
Probably where probably where Tom Hudak's office is, or the nurse's office.
Yeah, basically, right. So, that was all changed due to the change of the stairway. The stairway was created in effect by adding that foyer on and going up with it so you could access the 3rd floor. Before that stair, there was a porch, an elevated porch that there were a number of stone steps or concrete steps going up to, a brick wall that contained that. And children would go in, and then there would be, that would be at the office level. And then there was a straight shot stair up to the 3rd floor. Fairly wide, but then the stair in the back was very narrow. And it exited the building under a little roof, as opposed to now it's incorporated into the building internally.
Nice.
And that was, our need was to get rid of the fire escapes and to get a fire-rated stair in place in both cases, so that, and also we sprinkled the building,
Wow.
not previously sprinkled. These were all life safety issues that had been on the docket for some time, and they were taken care of at that point.
The elevator at the same time.
The elevator was put in at the same time for 88. That occasioned much discussion at the time.
Were you on the board?
No, after the first, there were two attempts. One bond failed. That was a proposal that Mary Frosted had Tim Smith put together, and it was about $2 million. And
That's
that
right.
bond failed. For reasons we don't really need to go into, but I'm not sure we actually knew all the reasons, but one is the size of the bond. I'm pretty sure of that. And the other is perhaps the way the process was handled, although there was considerable community input. Mary Frost did an excellent
I
job at the
remember
time.
that.
And so that failure precipitated, sorry about this history lesson, I'll cut it off shortly. That failure precipitated basically the members of that board declined to continue because they were exhausted by the effort. And so a few people volunteered to kind of work on resurrecting it. And there were some committees. Scott Creedy was on a committee, I was on a committee, other people, lots of other people were on committees, and we came up with a new proposal. And by that time, Scott was on the board, and Gene McWaters, and I forget the third member at that point.
So that's exactly what that is.
Nice.
That's it?
That's the last one, so I will actually see whether there's any reason we can't, if there's some reason we have to leave the account there for any period of time. Otherwise, we just close it out,
Mhm.
and that's what we used to
Mhm.
pay this.
That bond was $995,000.
I don't have the beginning of that, I just have the last page of the schedule.
It was priced to sell to the public, so
Oh,
5,000 under.
well, good, then you can do another one.
We had signs that we put up, I made the signs, and Fred Brownstein helped me put them up, saying $9.95 yes, or something like that. It was fun. It was great that it was successful. Okay.
You can burn this piece of paper.
Yeah.
See if the sprinkler system works.
If it still works.
Let's not do that.
It gets tested twice a year, probably.
Mhm.
And then, the foyer has a antifreeze loop, and that costs us, every 3 years, we have to replace it's food grade propylene glycol that goes into that. It's very expensive, because someone might ingest it if they get sprayed with it. So. Consent agenda. You know, I don't have the back. Do you guys
I didn't
have
get the
the
pack.
consent agenda?
No, we don't.
I know it was in the email.
Can go to,
There's page 2 on the email.
Well,
no, but it just had,
There's the second
It
page of
just
that email
references
that
it
I
to the-
thought it, unless that's just what it said.
just a second here.
I don't know if it listed them or not.
There it is. Minutes from September 7th and the warrants. Okay. The warrants are, there's a warrant that includes payment to the village school for tuition for this month. Then there's also the bond payment on it. There are payments to various small amounts. And they're the biggest other piece of it is assessments to the SU.
Not on this.
Oh, that was last
That
month,
was the last
sorry.
one. Here's these two, just in case you needed to see them.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's additional payment to Centerline Architects. That's the last payment on a bit of drawing for the upstairs bathrooms here. And then there's payment to Shasberry because for their 4 students from our district, which normally would have been made last month, but wasn't because they didn't get their paperwork in order. And then this bond. I was looking at last one.
That was the big one.
Warrant. So, I need a motion about accepting the consent agenda.
so moved.
Second. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Anyone wish to say anything further? All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous of those of us here. Policies.
Again,
Visits to school. This is just a warning, and John will, do you have any issues with this policy?
Well, it's just a slight revision of the previous version. Some people, I think, some board members, I think in Bennington, took umbrage with the language that lumped board members in with the general public, and they wanted to have a different category, but there's really no substantive change in terms of,
Yeah.
it's basically leaving it up to the school principals to enforce the safety and safety of the students and privacy of the students.
And to prevent unwarranted,
Right.
excessive intrusion.
Yeah, it's just a little clarification of the language. It's not a big change.
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion from someone to warn policy 1020, revision of visits to schools.
So moved.
A second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, superintendent's not here. Act 46. Any?
Things are somewhat in limbo now. We're still proceeding on three fronts. One is the possibility of a legal challenge. Matt probably has more information about our conversations with the lawyers than I do. I received an email from Brian Campion about a legislative initiative for a legislative solution for problems with smaller districts in Act 46. He mentioned it was a proposal from D.R. Savage. That means nothing to me. I asked him.
That's Donna Russo
Donna Russo.
Savage.
Donna Russo Savage. Yes, it does mean
That
something
makes
to me.
some sense.
Okay. So I don't know what that is, and I haven't seen anything. I asked him for more information or clarification on that. Knowing it's from Donna Russo Savage, I can ask her directly for what
Okay.
what information she has on that.
Yeah.
The second front is the exploratory committee. It was my understanding they were going to meet on the 18th, which was the next scheduled date for the now disbanded study committee.
I think that got postponed because some districts couldn't get their appointments
The
made.
appointments made by that
So
date.
I looked at the website today and I saw only one meeting, the 25th, a week later.
Okay. So I of course, plan to attend that. There are a couple of things that have really come to light or became more public in the last week or so. In going over the presentation that Donna Russo Savage made to the forum, it's clear that several of the strategies that were being discussed by the district are subject to later revision by the State Board of Education as part of making the statewide plan. Whereas we thought that if we combined under a couple of the structures, the governance structures that she'd recommended, such as a layered arrangement or the mode structure, it appears that those actually can be modified by the State Board of Education at a later time when they're doing the statewide plan. Basically, if you are proposing anything in your SU that results in more than one board, or if it results in a governance structure that does not include full pre-K-12 governance in one unit, you'll be subject to possible reorganization. That basically means we have no options that within the governance structures that have been promoted by the board that wouldn't be subject to later revision. That is, there are no guarantees that if we went to the trouble of coming up with a governance arrangement that covered the SU that resulted in 2 or 3 boards, that it's subject to later revision. So it really brings into question whether those are really worth the effort of the district or not. Those do result in several, those, it's interesting that those appear to result in you getting the money, but you still could get reorganized later on. At least that's the interpretation from the table that I have from our presentation. Any other structure where you propose an alternative that perhaps retains your current boards or otherwise proposes something that's not within the structure that they've recommended will not receive any of the financial incentives of Act 46. So it's really a question of going alone if you want some unique arrangement that would include the school. I should also say that all of those arrangements where there was a possible combining of the districts, there are a couple of those where North Bennington could retain its K-6 choice, but none of them that would allow its K-12 choice. So whether they suit our stated intent, I think they clearly do not. I have some suggestions for possibilities as to how the exploratory committee might proceed to come up with a structure that would suit the needs of the district, but I don't know what sort of response we'll get until we actually get into that meeting. For right now, it appears that the best activity that the advisory committee can undertake is to start assembling information for how we will address the 5 goals of Act 46, because that was the basis for rejection of the Windsor School District proposal by the Secretary of Education. Legislators pointed out later on that it's not necessary to have her endorsement for a proposal to go forward to the State Board of Education. But she was clearly making it public that she did not approve that structure. So it's interesting also that although Act 46 says you must have your proposal approved by the State Board of Education before the public can vote on it, it seems to me that if a supervisory union wanted to have a vote on a proposal that the exploratory committee agreed upon, you could do that. I mean, there's nothing to prevent you from putting it on the ballot. And you would then get a consensus or a measure of how much the community supported this kind of structure. It seems to me that that might be a very powerful tool in later arguing for a particular organization before the State Board of Education, if the voters had in fact approved it locally and agreed with this was the path they wanted to take. So that's something I think we'll pursue more with the exploratory committee.
You guys want to get over at the table?
Yeah.
We got a chair.
The third front that we've discussed is leaving MAU. And right now, I think it's clear that that is entirely dependent upon our showing what benefits there might be to other districts and how they might benefit from this. Right now, I think it's very unclear, although at least 2 other districts have expressed interest in having 7-12 choice. I think it's very unclear as to whether or not they're willing to take the steps necessary to go forward with it. So that's just going to be subject for more discussion as well. So it's those 3 fronts: the legal challenge, the exploratory committee, and acting to leave MAU that we're still exploring. So that's the report for now. And we're really kind of in limbo until the next exploratory committee. As I say, we'll be concentrating on how we would define and address the goals of Act 46 and how we would intend to address them as a community within the SU, no matter what governance structure we come up with. Any
And how
comments
do
or
you
questions?
see, do you have any thoughts about, either you or Matt, about, since you're the 2 representatives to the exploratory? about how you think it should proceed. What's the first task for this exploratory committee?
As I say, I think right now, a very productive direction for that group would be to look at the 5 goals of Act 46 and talk about how we see ourselves meeting those goals. Not necessarily focusing on the governance structure, but on what those goals really say and how we might provide evidence that, what it would take to provide evidence that we are meeting those goals, no matter what governance structure we come up with.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think, is, at least initially, I'd like to see the exploratory committee addressing that and looking at what some of those, what we might consider as evidence that we're pursuing toward those, meeting those goals.
So review the criteria of the act by
Right.
which the state board and the
Yeah.
agency are going to
Yeah.
evaluate proposals and starts getting,
When you get
Thoughtful about
blindsided, you
those.
do all that and you get blindsided by a secretary that just categorically denies your application, not sending a message to the Board of Education that that won't be
Yeah.
acceptable.
I've not looked at the Windsor proposal that she rejected or recommended against. It might be, I think it'd be very informative to do that. And to see, whether they really had made a cogent case for how they were gonna meet those goals or whether they hadn't. And again, I don't have that yet, but I'll be looking at that in the next, before the exploratory committee meeting.
okay? Anything you want to add, Matt?
Not really. That meeting is the,
Tuesday the 18th, I understand, no?
It's not on your website that way.
No, I know, it's
20th.
not on the website.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's that, because I was asked the same question in Shasbury earlier, and so the calendar, and I'm gonna have to rectify that, I already sent off an email from the Shasbury meeting, because the calendar still shows the old dates of the formal committee, and I thought Nelson had indicated it was gonna be the 18th.
That was my
Right.
understanding too,
Yeah.
but
But I haven't gotten that to warn from him yet, so.
so that's a week from yesterday, if it's
Right,
still.
if it is,
So we need
otherwise.
to, yeah.
One reason it might have been held up because not every committee had indicated who's going to be on it yet. So I know Shasbury did today, so.
okay.
Did Jeff pick the same people or different?
Same people, yeah.
Who's that?
Jeff Leak
And
And Jessica Smith.
Jessica Smith. Okay.
Okay. Do you, Jim, do you have something you want to say? It's your slot on the agenda.
I saw that, yeah. No, I don't have much to report other than interested to see where the next direction of Act 46 is going. And the other thing I've been dealing with is negotiations, which doesn't really impact this board, which is underway. An unusual piece this year is both the support staff contract and teachers contract both expire in the same year, which have always overlapped each other to prevent that, but that was done intentionally because of the need to discuss the changes in healthcare. So support staff negotiations is already underway. The Teachers Association indicated that they would have their team by the end of this month, so early November, and we've already been meeting with council on proposals for the impact of changes in health insurance.
This is for a contract that would start July 1st.
July 1, yeah.
It'll wake a lot of
This
people
is-
up pretty quick with what those numbers are gonna look like, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're getting up, I do need, we're doing the we have a vendor who gives us our updated numbers, enrollment projections, 10-year projections. So what I heard from the finance office is they do not have the numbers from North Bennington yet. So I don't know if Ray, if you could get those to Renee, that would, or
I'll
who
do it
has-
as quickly as I can.
Okay. Because the consultants, he needs those numbers to move forward, and then obviously if everyone will get a
I mean,
copy of
I
what
can
his
send her
enrollment projections will be.
The
Preliminary, whatever.
other schools, but the village school I'm still dealing with. so.
What is the contract with, what's the date certain set into the contract with the village school? With
I think
account?
it's October 15th.
15th
Right,
is the
that's,
state number that we have to report by October 15th, so I would think shortly after that, it should be available.
I actually don't remember that date
So
clearly.
your new
Tim, do you
student
know
fall
what the
under
date is? You asked me.
I
It was either
asked
the
you.
5th or the 15th.
It was the 30th, I thought it was the 18th.
Okay,
That's what I thought it was, because it turned out, that was the 30th day we were in session, is what
right.
I thought it went with. That's what we had discussed last time, so I want to say it was the 18th, but
I think it's the actual date. It's not,
okay.
it's because I think it was picked to be
Well, it's clear,
what
it's in
the
the,
SU takes to be about the 30th, which is around mid-October.
So, so our number right now is 118, 111.
111.
111 is what I just came up with.
Well, I think 111, because we just added one today.
Yes. I had
think-
110 on my
I
sheet.
think 111 is in district.
Probably where we, what's right where we budgeted.
One
I mean,
less.
One
yeah.
less.
And the other schools that total 19, and I believe we had 20
Last year.
or 21 we had 21 last year. And I have not verified whether we budgeted 21 again or not. I have to.
So how many did you say you thought was at the?
111.
111, and then
19
18 or-
totally, total to the other
Other
schools,
Right. Including Shasbury.
which gives us a count of 130, actual count of
Yeah.
students.
Which is, we had 132
Plus the, not counting the,
or 3 last year.
The only other thing I want to let you know, on the warrant that you signed, there was, Ray, you had requested a special warrant for one
Yeah.
vendor. It is
And I
included
saw
in
it
this.
was there.
that
That's
got
really
taken
fast
care of.
work by Jeff.
that's great.
Thanks. Okay, so that's my report on residencies, very short. I think we're pretty much right where we budgeted for, slightly under it, so we may have room for, we may have a little surplus from that line item ultimately, but who knows, because kids are still coming in.
Which considering,
There, yeah, I think there might be a family moving into 15 West Street.
they already did, but they're already in here. The one on the
What's-
corner, the School Street
15
one?
is, 15 West Street is John Ulrich's old house.
Oh, well, no, that would be.
Okay,
That was
well,
just
that would be
rented.
new,
It was just rented.
yeah,
I haven't met the family yet.
okay.
So-
That's the only one I
So
know
it's
who
per
might
contract,
still-
if they show up a day after the.
Well, I know there's a
date.
little guy moving into Harvest Hills and he's in kindergarten, another little boy.
Right, there's two dates, so
Like
it
the
would.
20th or
What's the date
something.
of 12th, Ray? Get them in.
Well, you know, from
I
the
may have
point
gone
of
by
view
the
of
house.
getting the number from the state, we want them in now.
Right, right.
From the
That's
point
right.
of view of what we pay you, we could wait.
Well, that's a good check and balance, really.
Yeah.
It's-
We could split the difference, register one family and wait on the other.
Okay, so, yeah, this,
I would just quickly want to thank, because I didn't, and I wished I had at the last meeting, the public forum that we had. So make sure that you and Stu both were recognized, and the chair and the board for putting that together. I mean, I think it really was a very good concerted effort to get people there, and it seemed to work, and I hope that next time it's twice that many people.
I think it helped having somebody from AOE there, though it really just produced even more questions.
Well, right,
But,
I think all it does is flush out
That's a
the
good thing.
inadequacies of the law, but, yeah, well, I still disagree with the, budget projection estimates, because they're, I think they're worthless. I think we asked for them.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what numbers would be accurate, because,
I
you know,
get that.
do we assume 75% would still go to MAU, 80%, 90, so,
I get,
yeah.
no, I understand. The one thing I would say is she said, I didn't want to make any assumptions, but the
But
big
then-
assumption was
She made
that
an
no one
But
would
that's an
go.
assumption.
Which,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So I think it
Well,
would have
she
been more clear to
qualified
say,
that-
I am
She
putting in
qualified
as
that
no one would
there
go.
is no revenue showing, right? Just like there's also no reductions,
Mhm.
because based, say, if only 70% went from Shaftesbury or North Bennington, there would be reductions at the high school in cost too.
Mhm.
So I don't know what model would allow us to.
Well, I think you
predict
could,
that.
you could do those models with different percentages of participation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think realistically, we look at what percentage of our students go elsewhere from here.
Mhm.
Maybe that's a number to start with from the high school standpoint, so.
Right.
In
So it
in
looks
which
like
case
you're
it's
losing
about
what,
15%.
15%.
Yeah,
of
but
those,
those
yeah.
aren't students who would have attended here,
Right.
for the most
But
part.
there's also a few more options for high school, middle school and high school that,
Yeah.
you know, that, I don't know.
Not
No,
really.
actually, there aren't.
fewer options.
Yeah.
There are fewer. There are fewer schools and
I mean, I
they're,
guess
But
you
are
could
there
say-
fewer seats is the question, right? It might be fewer schools, but more of a, I don't know.
Right. I just, unfortunately, the number that will be used, if it ever, if the issue becomes politicized and in a voting cycle of any sort, the number that will be bandied about is the horrific damage that would occur to
yeah, but
MAU, or whatever its new structure is.
We might have different numbers by the time we get to.
Well, I hope so.
But,
Yeah,
see, the scenario presented not only didn't account for tuition revenue, it didn't account for reduction of expenses that
That's
would
what you
have to
said.
occur
Yeah.
if you didn't have it. So it's the worst, it is the worst of all possible worlds because it is completely unlikely.
And she did state that it was a worst-case scenario.
Yeah.
But I understand Matt's point that people sometimes cling on that first number they hear and not continue to be part of the discussion.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it'll evolve, however it goes.
Right. And I think we've seen maybe a 5% loss from this institution, which was the original.
I also was
institution. We gained
surprised.
students outside of it, but we only lost like 3 or 4 from it.
I was also surprised by one of the slides that Donna Russo Savage showed that seemed to indicate that there was a model that would allow North Bennington to remain
The
in
layered
Mhm.
a layered model
Oh,
and have
yes.
maintained school choice. That was the first time I had seen
Us
that
too.
model.
Too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with further, he spoke to this earlier, that what was not also made terribly clear is that any of those models are subject to further state manipulation following the community voting to form it.
There's no guarantee.
Now, I would
The
think,
community's not the final word. That's clear as well.
Yeah.
unless you would create a K-12 one board, and this is what's forcing BRSU to rethink their side-by-side stuff. Now they're up in arms about whether they're gonna actually do what they're gonna do. So, well, I think things are gonna start moving fast and furious, and the legislature will be meeting in January, and that's
Be
gonna be a
interesting.
fun season.
As long as we all just keep talking.
Yeah. Chair report?
I did it, residents. So
Well, the
now we want to talk about.
Yeah, we have a contractual, it's an executive
We need
session.
to have an executive session here for some period of time, not too long.
Won't
I
take
think.
long.
And then we'll come
We'll come back
in
to
session.
approve.
You don't need